Sal, we got a new sheriff in town. You know this guy apparently, right?
Yes, Jason. He was a former NYPD cop in New York City. He's going to be the new sheriff. People don't like him because I guess they may say he's controversial and all that. And listen, I mean, you can say that about me and a lot of other people as well. But comparing him to the last sheriff and trying to say make excuses, you had a corrupt man who was the sheriff in New York City just a couple hours ago. So bad in the last 5 years. There's all kinds of allegations, including one that I reported on this morning. Allegedly, the Department of Investigation, which, as you know, they work in conjunction with the FBI, are looking at him for two things, which we'll get into. And now, recently,
Looking at
and
the previous sheriff. Hang
the
on a second,
previous
Sal,
sheriff.
because I think a lot of people don't understand. Let's before we get too much into Edwin Raymond and what's the current sheriff's name again?
Well, the current
The
sheriff is
previous.
not going to be Edwin Raymond. The previous sheriff was Anthony Miranda, a former
Before we
NYPD sergeant.
get into details about those two guys, first of all, explain to everybody, because most people, the sheriff, like in Las Vegas, the sheriff is like the police commissioner. But in New York, it works differently, right? What does the sheriff actually do in New York,
So,
and how does
uh,
that interact with NYPD?
so the sheriff in New York City is appointed by the mayor, and they essentially enforce civil enforcement, meaning, they go to your store, they could check you for untaxed cigarettes, things like that. Weed shops, but again, they need warrants to do this stuff. This is not what was going on under the last sheriff, but they go in and they can enforce. They could go into your establishment, see if you have fruit flies, things like that. This is what the sheriff department does. But they are armed and they can affect arrest as in the status of being a peace officer. So that's what they could do. That's why years ago you saw them going to Max Pub and all that stuff, and they kind of went way overboard when the entire pandemic was going on. So just so people understand, they don't. This is not the sheriff of your local county if you don't live in New York City. They're appointed by the mayor and they enforce civil enforcement. They're not that out there like police officers. Police would be NYPD, okay, or MTA, who patrol the MTA in the subways, which is separate from transit, which is the NYPD. This is completely different. So just let's keep this in mind. So Miranda was appointed over 4 years ago by the former mayor, Eric Adams. Anthony Miranda came through the ranks, came up with him. He was in charge. He created his own association, I believe the National Latinos of America, or NLOA. He was essentially the Hispanic Eric Adams. Eric Adams didn't create the Guardians. He was trying to hijack that, but he came up with 100 blacks in law enforcement. So they were kind of doing the same thing at the same time, and they're both very chummy. We've also seen Anthony Miranda pictured with and very chummy with a known mob associate and self-admitted criminal in a restaurant and establishment that should have had civil enforcement by the sheriff and by the New York City Department of Buildings and the NYPD. But of course, we all know how that went many years ago, and that's con sofrito. So and he's been seen in Puerto Rico recently with the same mob associate when Mamdani was elected and went to Somos, which is the Democrat gathering they go to once a year in January with all the politicians. So, um, how can I say this? This guy's tenure was mired in controversy and allegations. The people that work underneath him, those are the deputies and under sheriffs, and it is a how can I say tumultuous environment to work in. He appointed cronies and elevated cronies. So you have to take an exam to try to get elevated to be lieutenant sheriff. He was appointing people that he wanted. I mean, it's so many lawsuits and allegations. I also uncovered along the way, Mr. Miranda, before he became the sheriff, had a company where he went for one of those PPP loans and he took out about $29,000, and the company had 2 employees or 3 employees and then close the minute you got the money. And you can't do that. I don't know why he wasn't prosecuted, but they prosecuted an NYPD police officer and said, you took 40,000. What's the difference between 28,000 and 40,000? So
12,000.
yeah, this guy is he had a NYPD vehicle in front of his house from 2024. Allegedly, somebody in the paper, you could see this guy that allegedly made a threat to him, and they arrested this guy. He had a car in front of his home, which means someone in the command where he lives, in the precinct that he lives in Queens, had to actually fill out a unusual occurrence report of 49 and explain why that is, because he's not an NYPD officer anymore. He retired a long time ago. So this is an extingent circumstances that need to be told to the police commissioner, why are you having personnel, a vehicle, a police officer standing in front of his home for threats? What threats? They arrested this guy. So I uncovered that and I put it out there, and the vehicle was taken away a year later. So this guy is just, the weed shops, as you know, they got caught going to these weed stores, the legal places, by the way, and he would come in and confiscate your stuff.
Take the money.
Right? There was money missing, right? He's not supposed to touch vouchers of money. I don't know why there was money in his safe, but he was confiscating things without a warrant. You need a warrant to do these things. You can't just show up and say, I'm the sheriff, I'm going to take your stuff. You need a warrant.
Yeah, but
There's a court
isn't
order.
it true that he knows that whoever is running these weed stores isn't going to go to the cops and say the sheriff stole my weed? It's like,
Well, they did
what could
sue
you
him,
do?
and they were fined they were found liable for this. So I
The
don't know
sheriff
how.
was found liable? Who was
In the
liable?
city, you cannot do that. You can't just roll in on someone's place and say, I'm going to confiscate your stuff. And they destroyed it too. So they destroyed their
Eric
stuff, took
Adams
their
was
money.
sniffing it.
Yeah, Eric Adams was. I mean, this is why these two were joined at the hip with all the nonsense they were up to. The eyeballs and nonsense. But so this guy somehow managed to get past Eric Adams leaving and Mamdani coming. He was still the sheriff, and it's a head scratcher because you say this guy's coming, okay, but he's 6 months almost into his tenure now. Zohran Mamdani, and finally, in the last couple of hours, and we'll say the last couple of days, I'm never going to tell people how long I knew about this. Anthony Miranda was terminated yesterday, and we'll get to how this all came out. Now, when you terminate, you got to have a replacement and all this stuff. So I reported on the termination. I put it out on X. You saw it, you reposted it yourself. Before that was posted, there was, I'd say, less than a handful of people that actually knew what was going on. So I posted that he would be leaving. I didn't even use the word fired, terminated. I'm being very nice in journalistic way, that he was going to be removed and leaving within 24 to 48 hours. It was actually Thursday. He was leaving Thursday. And that he will be replaced by a former NYPD uniform member of service, which was Lieutenant Edwin Raymond. I then proceeded to make a video about an hour later. This takes time to actually post this kind of stuff and do this. In between this time, the minute I posted this up, the Daily News, everybody ran to go find out. They called City Hall to try to confirm this. Meanwhile, I already had posted about who was replacement, which was Edwin Raymond. So this got posted, and then later on, a few hours after I put everything up, here comes the Daily News. Here comes everyone else, and they're all claiming they didn't know. Nobody knew. Without me putting this out, today would have been the day you find out about it, or you would have found out with him leaving. I also put up the letter that came from the commissioner, which I wrote in this article, the commissioner of finance that was overseeing his removal, his termination, and the removal of all his items in his office. He was terminated, meaning he left in bad standing, which means he did not get an HR 218 endorsement. Also, he
That's the
left in
good guy
bad standing.
letter?
No good guy letter, even though I think he has that already as a former NYPD. But they took his electronics, all his phones, all his laptops, all his computers, everything they took. And again, according to my sources, he was being investigated, and it still is by the Department of Investigation now for potential deed fraud from Puerto Rico and pocketing money off this meme coin or whatever it is, the coin that he had, the coins he came out with, which this is a problem.
But isn't that all tied to Eric Adams, Sal, the meme coins and all that?
I mean, listen, the challenge coins and meme coins, the challenge coins. This is a problem. This guy has been an absolute menace as
Criminal.
the sheriff. His removal should be applauded. And then we get to Edwin Raymond because he's very controversial. Someone messaged me and said, "Uh-oh, we have a Black Panther up there. Your disgraced former NYPD chief of department, who's caused nothing but headaches when he was in the police department, was one of his supervisors, by the way. He's got something to say about everything, but nobody even cares. He can go tag everybody. Everyone laughs at this guy. Now he's being friends with another guy who's another clown, right? The two guys that hated each other, former cops, are now best friends online. But he comes out, he's blasting Edwin Raymond, all narrative building, all social engineering, which we're all on top of. Edwin Raymond was aligned with Black Lives Matter. He ran for office as a lieutenant. He sued the NYPD. And just so you know, look, I don't know the merits of his former lawsuit and if, how far it went. He had some claims. He came out with other claims as well at this time, all right, about quotas, about misconduct. He's also saying that, he believes that Black people are treated different than white people. And listen, that's his argument, okay? As far as a police officer goes, many who work for him have very good things to say about him. Other people that hear his stuff, I mean, he wrote a book. People that don't like it are obviously going to be the other way. Then we have social engineers online that are taking clips and editing them. And look, you could do that to him. We could do that about your favorite president because he said some of the most crazy and heinous things ever recorded by anyone in public office. That's the one and only Donald Trump. So I like to be even and even keel with this. So he's coming in, and I can tell you two things about him. Number one, he's a square badge, meaning he's not corrupt. Number two, he's not a game player. So when he's not going to be told or, go along with whatever it is that the soccer mom in the New York State Police Department, that is the upper echelon, has big issues. The executives have issued for a long time. She has lost control. You saw that this chief had an incident, the off-duty incident. We get into that. There's all kinds of stuff going on. He is not a game player and will not go along whatever it is that they want the sheriff to do or his joint operations. And because he's a critic of the NYPD and he's not against pro law enforcement, he's not against them doing their job. He's against some of the things that I like to bring up, the corruption and stuff like that. Now, he has a different kind of view on things than, let's say, me, or maybe he's not a libertarian or conservative leaning. Maybe he's more liberal, but he is an upgrade over Anthony Miranda. And if you guys don't see that, that shows your bias. The guy's just walking in. You did the same thing with Mamdani there as the mayor. You already knew his views. It's already said he's not marching in the Israel parade. And that's his prerogative. Whatever he wants to do, he could do. I saw the soccer. I'm going to proudly do this and that. It's his choice. He said he's not for the Israeli government, but his main supporter, one of his lead supporters, is this rabbi from Williamsburg, Masha something. This guy had a bunch of Hasidic Jewish people outside that have supported him from day one. He won the vote from the Jewish voters. So,
but I'm pretty sure that there's a crew of like Jews for Palestine who are social engineers and maybe even costume guys who hang out with Saeed Elatab. And not to say that there aren't Jewish people who support the plight of Palestinians. I'm just saying there's a particular crew in New York City that I think are a bunch of like fakers.
Yeah, there's a bunch of social engineers all over the place. But this whole, making a big deal over something that he even said it himself. He explains it to you whether you like it or not. he actually does something that, the president doesn't do, and actually explains what he does. The president should kind of be more like this instead of being, you know how he is. He kind of, and this is the thing, they're two polarizing characters, right? For many different reasons. And it kind of almost drowns out anything else that goes around them. And it's, again, a social engineering project because there's no difference from what he says to, well, now Eric Adams was the mayor, right? And you guys out there need to stop ignoring the corruption that had happened previously and now make excuses because you don't like this guy Mamdani. He's 6 months in, right around June, we could start making formulate some kind of opinion and start to see, okay, what's his policies, what's going on here. Now he's 6 months in. We did the same thing with Eric Adams, where we gave him 6 months too. So every mayor gets this. But there's a lot of hatred towards him, again, because of religion and all this other stuff. And you have to try to not be biased and be objective, which is what you and I do and many other journalists do, and keep that aside. And I'm doing the same thing with Edwin Raymond. I know he marched with Black Lives Matter. I know this stuff. But remember, your rhetoric when you're an advocate and all this stuff is always different than your actions when you are now governing or put in a position to lead, like a sheriff, like a police commissioner, like a fire commissioner. So you got to give the guy a chance. You gave Miranda a chance. How did that work out for you? Mired in lawsuits and all kinds of stuff in New York City. I mean, it's just nuts. And again, it's the social engineering. You and I have been on this. It's the social engineering that is going on right now that is now they're using against Edwin Raymond. Let him get there. Let's see what he does. He is an upgrade over Miranda because Miranda was that bad. And it's still ongoing what they're investigating. They're not investigating Edwin Raymond. He didn't take cash. He's not running around doing warrantless searches of your business and taking your stuff. And then, I don't know what happened to it. He's not running around with his laptops and stuff getting seized. He's not trying to hide from the finance commissioner yesterday, which was what Miranda was doing, according to all these sources. So,
Well, the sheriff's office is
give him a chance.
underneath the finance commissioner, I think, right? That's the way
Yes.
that works.
Yes.
So here's this lawsuit. It's a class action lawsuit. So this was dismissed in just April of this year, and it's up for appeal in the Second Circuit. It's amazing, Sal. I just had my Goodman versus the City of New York was dismissed in 2024 or 5, and just had the case in the appellate court. Wow, lots of stuff going on in this case. But he appealed it in April, and it's on appeal. So I don't know. I think when you try to sue the cops and the city, the court is pretty well stuck in against anybody. This is not like individual people who are corrupt. It's a corrupt system that protects itself. So yeah, you raise good points. I don't know this guy, Ed Raymond, never heard about him before yesterday, before you brought him up, but we're going to have lots to discuss in the sponsor exclusive segment on external affairs. People can join us for that in a little less than 10 minutes. People can subscribe to you, Sal, on thesalgreco.substack.com. Of course, they're going to get it on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. What were we going to say? Sorry.
I did want to say this. So people, just to try to help my work. You guys can subscribe my YouTube and Rumble at the Sal Greco Show. Same on Instagram. Same on TikTok, where a lot of these videos go out. But really now, I put a focus on salgreco.com because salgreco.com is where I also write articles. I wrote 3 this week. I wrote all about this after the fact. And why I had to do this is because you have this, the problem is I'm not Laura Loomer complaining about things like, oh, look at me. But when you break something, right? Every now and then, even if you're a big person, whether you're the Daily News or whatever it is, give someone who's small the credit that by the timestamps, it's proven you are not exclusive to anything. It's clearly was you guys monitor my page because I have all these good scoops, and then you go ahead and call City Hall, who don't acknowledge me or Jason because we don't have your press pass, whatever that's supposed to mean. And they tell you, yeah, it's 100%. And all of a sudden you run. It's not exclusive because you don't know anything unless you looked here, right? So that's my problem with the first part. And I wrote about this in the article. And the second part is, if you're a little blowhard, and I have things first, I know it first, I know things weeks ahead. Well, listen, I'm not gonna say much. But this individual got a bigger mouth than the actual body, and but if that is true, then you have to verify your stuff, right? You can't just throw things out there. It's a rumor, bro. It's a rumor, bro. So you have to verify your stuff and do all this journalistic work or investigative work. Maybe they didn't do it as a cop. I still do it. And you actually have to verify your sources, your stuff, and then post these things. But if you say, I had this weeks ago, where is it? You know why? Because these are the kind of people that are in the street. Yeah, bro, if I played basketball against Patrick Ewing, I would have beaten him 20 years ago. Meanwhile, what are you talking about? You're one of the worst basketball players anyone's ever seen. And this is the kind of stuff we're talking about. And this is why, this whole media landscape business, it's just a big social engineering experiment. And you have people that want to be social engineers, one and the other. And they boast about themselves. Meanwhile, you have all these, go to socialblade.com. You can see how all these people have these big subscriber counts and viewership, but are the views coming from India? Are the views not organic? Because you can't just have all these views, but yet you've had the same views for 2.5 years, but your subscriber count blows up. You have nothing viral. None of that adds up. Are they coming from India, the views? Who knows? A lot of people doing that these days. That's all I'm saying is be fair. I think you agree on that, and that's all I'm asking for.
100%.
I post things. Jason, if you post something or someone we don't even know or agree with post something, I will always credit them. I do it on my show. We do it on this show. So that's all I'm saying. We're little guys. We just want a little piece of the shade because it's very hot out here.
Honestly,
That's all I'm asking
for me, I don't even necessarily do it for the other person. I don't want to steal somebody's credit because I think it makes me look worse. I would rather just say, hey, look at what this person found. And then, I'm not going to try to steal something from somebody's. Daily News, obviously they're going to do that. They don't want to acknowledge the Sal Greco show. They don't want to acknowledge Sal Greco. They don't want to admit, you're getting a lot of scoops kind of all the time. So it is important for people to visit salgreco.com. There's lots of ways to support Sal. You can hit the support tab and send a payment directly. You can go to the shop and get a hairbag shirt. You could join Sal, you should actually give people certificates to join the Hairbag Society. You could create a program like that.
Oh, the hairbag society. Listen, and that's again the Joe Cop crowd. And you could look. It just shows you are. What it really boils down to is a lot of cops, unfortunately, whether they retire or whatever, they become very envious and jealous and bitter. That's not me. It's never been me. There was a period in my life. Yeah, you got to understand being investigated by all these different branches of government and stuff when you haven't done anything. Yeah, life could really come crushing, just all the weight of the world on your shoulders. But you know what? It's like surviving a nuclear blast somehow. And here I am still. And I'm not bitter. Every day I wake up, Jason, as you know, you've been down here. It's 90 degrees. That's why some of the videos I post, I do that kind of stuff. And I'm doing this not, it's doing a service, a public service to the, first of all, law information and uninformed and people that want to be informed, because this is stuff that matters to you. A taxpayer, the rank and file police, or law enforcement around the country. You need to be informed. What happens in New York City or whatever I'm talking about, that can affect you in your local town. I've been saying this forever, but I don't knock other people. This is not my thing. Others, that's their shtick because they're 5'6". I don't know. You're 5'6". You don't do that. Others seem to do that with that height. And I'm not against people that are short. My girlfriend's short. So I'm just saying.
5'7".
I'm just saying.
According to George's Brothers Process server, I'm 5'2" and 200 pounds.
Yeah, you're not 5'2". No, you're 5'6". I'm not. You could clearly see how tall you are. I'm just saying that some people just, guy, life is short. Life is grand. It's not worth all the hate. That
No.
Anakin Skywalker, remember, he loses all his limbs to Obi-Wan.
Look at you
He's gonna
now.
shoot the rest of his life.
You're
Look
supposed
at
to
you.
be the one to bring
The
what was
balance
he?
to the Force.
Yeah, not to leave it in darkness. Anyway,
Not to leave it in darkness.
Sal, we're going to head over to External Affairs. People can join us there. Subscribe to thesalgreco.substack.com. Don't forget to also get on to crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com or subscribestar.com or patreon.com. I actually have some breaking police corruption news to bring to you from downtown at the courthouse. Not what I just showed you before, something else. Actually, I want to ask you if you know this guy. There was a cop yelling at a biker. Well, anyway.